All right, worksheet 2, number 10, the very last question. The reason I want to go over this question because it is something that has future implication. By future, I mean calculus. And this is also one of those questions that a lot of people screwed up last year. Okay, and why? Well, people got confused, scared, and overly worried. So therefore, they thought it is something very challenging, and when it is not really that challenging. Now, we talked about this last week, and I said repeatedly that please make sure that you do not give special treatment. This is f of x plus h. What do we do? Yeah, so if you think that you might be confused, then I would just tell you to do this. First, go ahead, set up your parentheses. For every single x you saw on the original f of x, make them to a pair of parentheses. Okay, and then, well, if I gave you a 2, I think you would know how to do it. Then if it's now x plus h, well, you do the same thing. That's what I meant last week by saying, please do not give any kind of special treatment. It is the same thing, you do the same process. And then you will do FOIL, which will give you this here. And ultimately, you have 3x squared plus 6xh plus 3x squared plus x plus h minus 2. So I would say there are 2 areas where students tend to make mistakes here. First is that when they see this, they freak out. They don't know what to do. They start to do all kinds of random things. And I would say, please calm down. It looks somewhat different, but again, you would know what to do if it's a simple number 2. And now just treat that as a number 2. What would you do? You replace all the x with this thing right here. That's area number 1, okay? Don't freak out when you see this. Area number 2 is that when they see this, x plus h squared, they didn't FOIL. You know what they will write? They write down x squared plus h squared. Okay, which is totally incorrect because x plus h squared means x plus h times x plus h. That's why you do FOIL. So in the back of your mind, you've got to ask yourself, are you memorizing what to do, or are you actually understanding what to do? You have to be very honest to yourself. If you know what to do, then this whole process is effortless. You know what you're reading, you know what to do afterwards. Okay? But if you say, I'm just memorizing it, then I would tell you that it is not sustainable. It is not sustainable. And I want you to be sustainable here. Okay, so are we good with f of x plus h? Yeah? Yes? Now, what about the next one? Next one scares people in 2 ways. First, what the heck is rate of change? Well, that's a slope. Okay, and now this is actually a fancier slope equation. Okay, now how do you calculate slope, by the way? What's the equation to calculate slope? Remember from algebra 1? Sean. Wonderful. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. And if you know y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1, that means you should know this as well. You should know. So we will have a little difference in labeling. Okay. Now, so let me show you what it's going on here. So first, let me direct your attention to the x-axis. So first we label this as x, and there's a distance we call h. Well, then we will mark this x plus h. If this confuses you, then I would just give you some numbers. I would say, if I say this x thing is 2, and this distance h is 3, so 2 again here, 3 right here, what is this number? 2 with a distance of 3 right here. What would this number be? Everybody. It is 5, right? 5. And how do you get 5? Well, you have this number right here. You add the h distance, so that's why it's x plus h. And then we have a point right here, and we call this function f of x. So therefore, this is f of x. And this point right here, this will be f of x plus h. So f of x plus h is just a fancier way to say y2, and f of x is a fancier way to say y1. And how come there's only a h over here in the denominator? Well, when you have f of x plus h minus f of x, and then x plus h minus x, well, what happened to the x's? They cancel each other. So therefore, you have just h remaining. So that's the explanation of where or how we call this the rate of change equation. It is the same old y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay. So now let's talk about the execution. So a lot of people got scared because it's long and it will look long here, but I want you to see it in a very clear way, and I don't want you to panic when you see this. So now in part 1 right here, you did the f of x plus h already. So what we're saying here is, please go ahead, look at this. This is called f of x plus h minus what? F of x, and then over h. There are 3 components in this expression. So what you do? Well, what is f of x plus h? This part right here. So you would simply put it right here. And I probably need to extend this a little bit longer. So yes, it is long. Okay, this is f of x plus h. Minus f of x. Where's f of x? Well, they gave you at the very beginning. Okay. So it's really about what you're reading. Do you know how to read these function notations? And then over h. Okay. So now, are we okay with this kind of substitution? Are we good? Okay. And this is why you will hear me saying all the time throughout this course, that is, please go ahead, make sure you write down the equal sign. Because a lot of people, they don't even know that this is equal to this. They were just focusing on the doing part, but they're not understanding the meaning of their notations. So what do we do in the fraction here? Yes. Yes, excellent. We have 3x squared minus 3x squared. They cross each other out. Anything else that will be crossed out? X, yeah, the x will be gone. What else will be gone? The minus 2 will be gone. So we say, all right, cool. What's left? We write down what's left. We write down what's left. And then understanding that this h is a common denominator. So now, for those who are struggling to understand how things are being canceled out, let me illustrate this to you. Although I don't usually write this, but just in case that you don't understand how canceling is done, we're not just canceling one h from the numerator and one h in the denominator. The h in the denominator is the common denominator. So that's why we have 6x plus 3h plus 1. A lot of people tend to, oops, sorry. A lot of people tend to forget this one. Somehow they thought h over h would just become 0. Well, h over h, it's 1. Just like 2 divided by 2 is 1. Are we good here? Okay. On the quiz and test. On the quiz and test. Okay.